Hello, good evening. Welcome to episode 2 of Confessions of a Fleshy Star. I'm Logan, and this is my husband, Brett.
Hi.
And so I feel like the topic that we're going to just sort of flow into this evening is going to be about past life regression through hypnosis. So my husband and I are both QHHT practitioners. But before we dive into that, I want to introduce ourselves a little bit more and tell you like what we're into in our metaphysical careers. So I'm a Reiki master, and I've been attuned as a Reiki master through the Monroe Institute, which is in Virginia. I'm a QHHT practitioner, so quantum healing hypnosis technique through Dolores Cannon, and I'm a level 1 practitioner. And then I also do quantum sound healing through this program called Quantum Sound Therapy, which is our mentor, Helen O'Reilly. And that's using the voice, it's called a voice code, and it takes your voice and makes a triple binary beat frequency out of it that creates a healing frequency to help you move through blockages. So it works like a psychic drill and moves energy out of you. So that's kind of what I do. My husband does the same thing.
Yeah, QHHT. I'm a QHHT level 2 practitioner, and I also do the quantum sound work and the Reiki. I've got Reiki master teacher and like to do healing work. That's what I do.
And so this episode of Confessions of a Fleshy Star, we're going to be talking about what we do with past life regression, how we've got into it, and, maybe exciting experiences we've had with clients or ourselves. So on the first episode, I touched base a little bit about my experience in my early childhood, my recurring dream of my past ancient Egyptian past life when I was around 3 or 4, and how that expanded more when I was about 27 years old, when I had my Kundalini awakening. And that was like my first intro to past life regression. So what about you, Brett? What was your first experience? Why did you get into QHHT, hypnosis, past life regression work?
Yeah, thanks, darling. And so with past lives, I wasn't really sure about it growing up. Typical Christian upbringing, but kinda Christian. Went to church every now and again. But along with those lines of thought, that thinking, and got into meditation first, and metaphysics and meditation to help me feel better. I had a lot of depression, a lot of stuff in life, so I wanted to improve, hit rock bottom, wanted to build myself back up. So I started to get into metaphysics, meditation. Then a couple years into meditation practice, I started to get weird sort of flashbacks or things like that happening, where I would see people in my life, like in the past or previously, and just all sorts of things would come up in meditation and in dreams too. That was a big one. So I started to experience that and kept exploring that. Kept expanding my horizon with metaphysics, and it was my favorite musician, Iasos, Iasos, one of the founders of New Age music. He he has a blog on his website where he would post what just metaphysical things that he enjoys and that he likes, and shared a video about someone made it in regards to Dolores Cannon's 3 Waves of Volunteers. It's a video of like 2 kids. One of them is talking, they're both talking to each other through telepathy. So they're just looking at each other, communicating, and then there's an overdub of audio of them thinking, talking telepathically at each other, talking about going to Earth. So they end up talking along the lines of items that relate to Dolores Cannon's work, and the 3 Waves of Volunteers ended up reading that book. Or, yeah, I think I read it before I had my first QHHC session, but I got super curious and went in and wanted to expand my horizons, get some answers to questions that I had, and really just explore some metaphysical adventures. And I went in thinking that my doors of perception were going to be opened up. Excuse me. But what happened was the doors blew off the hinges, the door frame was busted open, and my entire perception of myself changed from that QHHC session. And the world just kept expanding out wider and wider.
So what happened during that QHHT session?
So I went to this woman's house, and she was a bit grandmotherly or motherly type, somewhere in between those ages for me. And she's Jewish, and I've got some Jewish background with my family. So it was comforting, sort of being like mom, grandma. So I was like, okay, all right. Went and talked to her for about 2 hours or so, talked and told her about my life, what I had going on, and it was great. I was able to like see some things that were some patterns and pictures about my life that were important. Cried a little bit, and was really like, oh, okay, I see now that like I can talk about what was going on. Just sit down and let it all go about my life. And it's like, okay, some answers, some questions got answered. Then we went into the other room. I laid down on this twin bed there, snuggled under the covers, and then she sat next to me with a tape recorder and started talking to me with the hypnosis voice. I started going under, and then she asked me to come off the cloud, and to it was like, what do you see, or do you see yourself? And I saw a glowing figure hovering above the water, and my conscious mind kept jumping in, trying to be like, no, you don't see that. That's not what you're seeing. You don't see that. And it was like an image from a book or something of Jesus, sort of floating above the water. It was like a static 2D image. It was definitely a representational image. And I knew that it was me. And that was the weirdest thing, because I'm like, what? What is this? And so she was like, describe how you look like. And I didn't want to just be like, it's Jesus. I look like Jesus. Didn't want to say that. So I was just like, I'm kind of like floating above the water. And she's like, you're floating above the water? Like trying to figure out what's going on. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, just didn't want to say it. And then drifted into more like I morphed into a water dragon. The best way to describe it. Dragon lives underwater, and explored that a little bit, and then we went further into a bunch of other things, but that's kind of how it got kicked off for me.
Yeah, so tell me more about like this water dragon life. Like this was a very important like past life for you. That was like one of the things you really like whenever we were talking when we first started dating, and you were telling me about QHHT and stuff, and I was like, what? Like, you were telling me about this water dragon life.
Yeah. So the details more that they kind of became more. I got more information later on from meditating and connecting with it. I could feel that I was a water dragon, and during that first QHHT experience, I mostly just felt great just going through the water and kind of swimming around and having fun that way. That was mainly all that happened. And then,
Did you have any important, when they went, so like we do a script when we do this QHHT hypnosis session. So like he was explaining the first like 2 to 3 hours when we have a client, they'll come and they'll share their life. And like the more vulnerable you can be, like the deeper you go, like the more healing you can experience. And then there's a script that we read, and we take you into theta state. We get you like relaxed so that you can enter the state and see what you need to see. And so he saw, that Jesus hovering above the water, and then it kind of morphed into the water dragon life. And then after you experience as many lives, like you might see one or you might see a couple, then we go to the SC, the superconscious, which is like contacting your higher self. So was there anything like important in that particular session with that woman that you'd want to share about contacting your higher self, or what came through that you remember?
yeah, the past lives, that was one of them. We went to some other ones as well. The higher self, the superconscious. We went there, and I think it was when we contacted there, I started to struggle a little bit. I started to feel so for me, when the story was coming through, it was definitely just coming through me. It felt like a river flowing through me, through my body, and then coming out of my mouth, speaking these things. And my regular conscious thinking mind had to sit to the side, like literally go to the side of my awareness and let this river flow through me. So when it came to the superconscious part, and I had written down some questions, so she started asking me these questions so that my superconscious part would answer them. So I would answer my higher version of me would answer my own questions. My conscious mind wanted to jump in and kind of like control the stream of the answers coming through, because it would be like, answer it this way. I want you to like, it wants what it wants.
Your logical mind was getting in the way.
Yep. And it could stop the flow, that stream flowing through me. It stopped it several times.
I have clients too like that. I'm sure you have too, where they're more, is it the left brain, the left side of the brain that's logical?
Left brain.
The left brain wants to interfere with the right brain, and so people are logically like, this can't happen, this isn't true, where it's like they're just trying to control and get in the way of the flow of like your higher self coming through you.
Yeah. So I could shut it off whenever I wanted. And she was a great practitioner because she could realize that that's what I was doing. And I think she even told me, like, you can see what's happening. Like, imagine your conscious mind, just sit in a chair off to the side and just let the information come through. It's great advice for everybody, just to see what happens, see what comes through you. It's all set up so that it is you and your higher consciousness coming through. So let's see what happens. And so I felt good for me that I could actually control it like that, because I could know that at any time I could stop the session if I wanted to. If I really was like, I know I wrote down the question, I wanted the answer, but in the moment be like, I actually don't want to know the answer. Just if I wanted to, I could have just pulled out and just said, nope, I'm done.
Even too, like, we've had instances where you and I were working together and our higher self would be like, you have to see it through. They wouldn't give, like, direct answers. They would just be like, you need to kind of play more life out and then you will see what happens, you know? So sometimes it won't give you the answer because it's probably better than you could have anticipated.
Yeah, and my higher self is it answered all my questions, got some good healing, had some pain in my elbows from jujitsu that it really helped heal, and the other injuries I was working with, it provided some relief, and my healing journey for the rest of those items it's important for me to keep pursuing the different ways that I heal, because that's expanding my knowledge as someone that helps others heal. I want to heal my body, so I'm trying so many different ways, so many different things that I feel are right for me, and that's helping me to help others with the same thing. So I see the value and benefit of that, but yeah, the superconscious is good at answering questions and providing more clarity from the past lives. And it might not have been the exact specific answer I was looking for, but it was the answer I needed at the time, and the answer I could handle at the time, as far as like just questions I wanted answered. It was what I needed at the time to keep me going in the direction I needed to go. It wasn't just gonna be like, hey, you can skip all of these life lessons by us just giving you the answer right now. No, it was, here's your next steps.
Right.
Because that was what was important for me to have at the time. I know this now because this was like 2015 ago. And
9 years ago.
Yeah, around then. So looking back, I needed to get those answers, and not like, later on I understood these situations I was dealing with more over the years since then, but at the time I needed that to keep taking the steps.
Yes, the stair steps forward, going up the ladder, in the ascension process.
Yeah. Yep. So that was my experience.
Well, mine was different. So I had the past life. I came in with past life trauma and how I died in my ancient Egyptian past life. So that was like number one. And then before my Kundalini awakening, I was having like a recurring dream that was a past life that I had with like one of my catalyst people, influential people in my life. That was number two. And then I got clarity on my past life with Uncle Nate after my Kundalini awakening. And then I met you in November 2021, and we met at Reiki Share. We met at a Reiki event. We met at a group meditation. He invited me to Reiki Share. And then we went out, and it turned out to be a date, and then we ended up falling in love, and it was really wonderful. And then in our connecting and talking and on our dates and stuff, he talked about how he did this past life regression stuff. And, I had my own experiences, but I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what is this? And then we got engaged after like 2.5 months. He proposed January 1st of 2022. And then we went to a convention in February in Daytona Beach, Florida, for a QHHT like reunion convention. And so I'm like, I hadn't had a past life regression by this method. Like, we went and I'm just like, what is this? Like, what is this safe? I was kind of weary. It took me a while, but like I warmed up to it because the QHHT convention was super cool. It was like a tribe of all of my super like weird friends. Like, they had talks, kind of like parlor like chats and things where they were talking about, like, we went to a class about like aliens, like knowing like who your ancestry of these higher dimensional beings are. And then we went to this talk that was about like high vibrational children, which like really resonated with us because like a few months later, we met our spirit child who wants to come in, which that's pretty magical and wild, and another topic for another day. But, so yeah, it was really cool to, like, experience these conversations and be in, like, a cool place. The first night we were there was, like, this costumed ecstatic dance that we went to, and that was the first time I ever went to an ecstatic dance. And so we dressed up like Celtic
druids.
Yeah. And we, like, were dressed the same, and they had, like, different colored and kinds of punches, and one of them was called Twin Flame Punch, and we drank it because, you know, we're divine counterparts, and that was really cool. And yeah, this convention was super cool, especially because all the divine feminine girls would be like, how'd you do it? How'd you find your person? And that's going to be another topic for another episode. But we went to this QHHT convention, and you can, like, swap sessions with other practitioners, and it's all recorded, and so, like, I was shown this life, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess there is something to this. And so I think it was it March or May of 2022? I can't remember. Maybe it was March.
It was it after we got married? Or no, it was before.
No, it was before. So it was March.
Yeah.
So it was March, and we went to Brett's RV. This was before we got married. And he gave me my first past life regression. And it was long. I feel like it was over 5 hours. I did the whole thing, even though, like, he knew, like, most of my life. Like, I did the interview portion where I, like, talked about, like, my life story, and he did learn new things about me. He's like, I didn't know that about you. I'm like, well, it just came out. And then he, you know, read the script. He put me into theta, and I experienced 3 past lives, and they were all vastly different, and they were very cool. Well, even before that, we did, like, that recorded one. You remember? I think it was, like, when we first met. We did that, recorded the video of Dolores Cannon.
Oh, the DVD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
the group past life
so
regression.
that was, like, my toe in. So backwards, before the whole my experience, I think we did that, like, right when we met each other or something like that.
Yeah.
And I got, like, a few little things. Like, you saw us as Inuits. Yep. And didn't we get abducted by a UFO?
Something.
I remember. And I think we were married, and, like, the house burned down. I had a baby. I saw we had a baby, and the house burned down. We, like, lived in this little cottage in a meadow. Like, it was pretty cool. And so that's a method that you can do. You do the group past life regression stuff.
Yeah, group past life regression. I was doing that in Hendersonville about 2 weeks before I met you, and I was leading a group past life regression. And so it's where the whole room full of people. It could be done in person and virtual. I'll be setting up the virtual portion of that, doing some in-person ones in Eugene currently. But it's a whole group, everybody. It's like a guided meditation where I guide everybody to go to a deep enough level of hypnosis. Like, it's a deep meditation. It's the same brainwave state, same consciousness state that everybody's in, and they go through it, and everybody sees their own adventure. Basically, it's I say go to an important day, go to the house where you live, and then I wait, and everybody sees it in their mind, and then goes to events and sees important things, and then after that, it's only like maybe 30-45 minutes of that, and then afterwards they all write it all down so they can remember everything. But I was doing that for a group, and I saw, whenever I do that, I see my own past lives, because I sit there and I say, see the house where you live, and just my own higher self and consciousness comes up, And I saw an important day for me in a past life, in a Celtic Druid life, was I saw myself getting married to a woman I had never met before. And I was like, okay, I'm down with this. This is good. I'm looking forward to a new relationship. And then 2 weeks later, I met her. Yeah.
Yeah. So back to my experience with so that was March of 2022, and I saw 3 past lives, and they're all very surprising and out of the blue. The first one was super cool because like I was this, I don't know, I think I was like this druid, like witch. Like, so I lived, it looked like the motherland of Ireland where my people are from, because there was like rolling hills and stuff. But when I came into the past life, I was like in this old-timey town with like cobblestone streets, and my mother was a witch. She was getting burned at the stake, and my father was a wizard, and he was getting beheaded. And I was like a younger girl, and this older crone witch energy like found me and took me out of the town into like the hills, like the rolling hills in the edge of a forest kind of. And I lived in this cottage which like had a straw roof. It was a stone cottage. You had to like walk up the steps, and you go in, and there's like herbs all over, and it's just like kind of like this one room kind of like cabin-esque stone cabin with like a loft. And so like I collected herbs. I was like kind of like a green witch, like kind of like living off the land and stuff. And I had a pet sheep. So in my I guess adolescence, my maiden energy, like I lived by myself in this cabin with a pet sheep, and my pet sheep is my cat now. And so that past life was really interesting. Like an important day was Beltane, and I remember taking my pet sheep. We were walking like down a hill on this path, and there's like grass all around, and there's like this fire down at the end of the hill, and there was a bunch of like women wearing like white dresses, and they were wearing like antlers and like these costumes, and we were celebrating Beltane. And so we would do like these rituals by the fire, and I saw myself like taking a dagger and like cutting my palm of my hand and dripping blood into the fire. And that was an important day for me. Another important day for me was when my pet sheep fell down a cliff, and I couldn't save him, and he died, and I cried. Like I physically cried, like experiencing this like in this life. It was really traumatic. But I had to relive it because it was something that I was going through in the present. Like that's why this past life was shown to me, because it like pertained to like stuff that I was going through like back in March of 2022.
And as QHHT practitioners, we receive training on how to help people that are going through these emotions. While she was crying, so just kept saying suggestions. You don't need to experience this discomfort if you don't want to. If you don't want to experience this, you don't have to. You can just observe it. You don't have to go through it. But it's important to cry it out sometimes. But just
because I was carrying this. I was carrying this energy, this suppressed energy from a past life that needed to come up. I needed to feel it to heal it. I needed to experience it, because we all carry stuff over from past lives, and whether you're aware of it or not, like it none of us come out unscathed when we incarnate into the earth school. We are all carrying stuff over, and it's just a matter of like if it comes out naturally or if you like need some help. And so that's kind of what we do, is like we help people move through stuff, which we'll get into when we start talking about like some sort of client things that we've experienced. But yeah, so I experienced this life. I know I like channeled, my higher self channeled a bunch about like the state of the times, talking about like spirits like over the bars and how they like inhabit people who drink. Like it was just really wild, like the kind of stuff that came through, and it's all recorded. so I can revisit it and listen to it like again if I feel like it. And so that was a very interesting life that I lived. And then another one of my second past life, I was a Roman soldier that burned down the Library of Alexandria. And I was kind of in shock that I was a bad guy in a past life, like honestly. And I love like occult books. I love mystery school teachings. I love books. We have like a collection of books together, and I burned down the Library of Alexandria. Like I'm a bad person. Oh, it was awful. But it was like kind of a short life. So the first life was long. The Roman soldier life was short. And then I had this other experience of the Ascended Master Realm, and that was like a really beautiful experience that I'll just sort of keep to myself because it was really magical. But yeah, so like after my experience, I was converted. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And this is like, because I mean, I've had my own past life experiences, but like going through like a facilitated experience, like I actually got to understand like, oh, this is what this is, and I wanted to do past life regression work. So my husband kind of like introduced me to this, and I'm converted. I just received my QHHT practitioner level 1. I've done 28 sessions now, QHHT sessions. And you've done 33 sessions. So we're like up there. And I'm going to start taking my level 2 class so I can be a level 2 practitioner. But yeah, I really see the benefit of it. And now I want to ask you about any like interesting client sessions like that you've had that you'd like to share, that you feel comfortable sharing, that were like important, like pretty wild, like something that stood out to you, something above average.
Yeah, okay. Important client sessions to talk about. Session I saw a client go through. It's really it's I think important for people to get perspective. Every time somebody has gone through a session, they've been able to get a little bit more insight into something, whether it's, you know, if they're sad about something, or if they're having trouble being alone. They would go through a life where they lived as someone that just was a loner in a small town by themselves, totally nothing happening. So it's like, it's the energy of the past lives that they sort of pick up on when they re-experience it. When they experience that past life under hypnosis, they can take in the energy and the lessons of what that whole, like, could be a whole life of just living by themselves, sad and depressed. Okay. They take that energy in and they're like, oh, well, I don't need to spend this life sad and depressed. I already did one life doing that. Like, I can just move on and do something else. Like, that's already done. Like, it seems people want to learn things, have experiences, learn from them, and grow and just be a more well-balanced, well-rounded person. There's been one person's life, past life, she was a mermaid, and around Atlantis times, and the Atlanteans were experimenting with how to turn her back into a human. That was because sometimes in common, at least common stuff I've read and followed about Atlantean people, Atlantis trying to take people and hybridizing them with animals. And some people thought maybe that's how mermaids happened. But this experience, she was a mermaid and they turned her into a human just because, and it was very cruel. She didn't want that to happen. They captured her, and that was very sad. And in this life, she really is an advocate for whales that are trapped at like SeaWorld and places like that and confined. She likes to try and help them, and because she feels that she felt that confinement as a sea creature that was abducted and confined, and so yeah, that was probably a good story to share.
Yeah.
That's what story came up.
Cool. Thank you. I feel like I've experienced with my clients like all sorts of different, like the vast array of everything. I've seen like mundane lives, I've seen like royalty lives, I've seen like traumatic lives. I've seen like a lot of UFO lives, which that's been crazy. Like I feel like I've seen probably, because it's interesting, like we'll see what our clients see.
Yeah.
Like it's just really interesting because the higher self allows us to experience and see, especially when the client's like telling us. We're like kind of a detective because we ask questions like, what do you see? And then we'll repeat back, they're like, I see like a field of green grass. You're like, okay, so you're in a field of green grass. What else do you see around you? And so they're painting us this picture and we can see it. We can see what they're seeing, the more like dropped into the experience that they are. And so like I had one client just recently that I picked up at the community healing night. She's a great girl, but she could get into the sambulistic state. So it's a state where like she's actually like physically living the life and she can see everything. Because generally like I'll kind of be like an outside viewer, or like I'll be seeing like a picture, I'll be seeing it instead of like being the person. Like my reoccurring dream, past life, ancient Egypt, I was the person. And then like the other, like I was a queen in a past life, I was the person. But other things, I wasn't really like the person. Maybe like my Celtic life, but when I was seeing the Roman soldier, I was like watching. I was like watching something play out, which was pretty wild. But she could see exactly like she was the person. And I'll explain that because it was an ordinary life, but it was just like a really expansive experience to like have a client that was just like really in it. So like it was at a healing night and I was channeling Reiki to her. She bought an individual like Reiki session, so I was just channeling Reiki to her. And she came in complaining about a stabbing pain in her side, like right here. And usually like my intuition's like, oh my gosh, she got stabbed, you know? And so I put my hands over that spot and I was like feeling the energy come through and I'm like, oh my gosh, you got stabbed in a past life. It feels like that. And she's like, that, I don't know. And so I gave her my card and she called me and we set up a session for her and she came over. And lo and behold, like we went through the interview portion. She talked about her life and, you know, she's had, you know, a fairly young adult, ordinary life of, you know, going through stuff, you know, love stuff and all whatevers. But like, when we went up to the healing room and we got her in the state, like the whole scene just played out. She like lived in a cabin in the woods and she could tell you like exactly what the garden bed looked like to a T, like every little thing in the garden bed. She could tell you exactly like what the front porch looked like, how you go in the house, you open the door, you look to the left, there's a kitchen. And she like noticed there was like a knife on the cutting board. And she talked about like the living room and the fireplace and the murals on the wall and all the little kids' stuff all over. And like she like seriously like painted this picture so clearly, like she was living and seeing and experiencing it. And I've never had a client like that in depth with it. It was pretty magical. And then come to find out she had a little girl and she lived by herself and with her little girl. The father wasn't in the picture and her neighbors were like a couple miles down the road. But one day her little girl got a fever a really high fever. She thought it would pass. 3 days later, her little girl died. And it was just like so traumatic. She didn't know what to do with herself. And she was like living in that life. So she's like crying and screaming and like crying through the whole experience and like talking out loud and stuff. And she goes into the kitchen, gets the knife on the cutting board and stabs herself. She kills herself. And so like, you know, we, during the death scene, because we all of us have to see a death scene of that life. We have to know how we died in order to close it out and stuff safely. And so, you know, she didn't feel any pain. Like we have like these safety phrases built in so that like nobody experiences anything traumatic and it doesn't linger with you. You heal through it during like the process of experiencing it. But like afterwards, you know, we ask like, what was the purpose of this life? And so like she got to understand like the purpose of why she had to experience that life, what it was trying to teach her. And it was really powerful experience that she had. But interestingly enough, like after she came out, after we talked to her SC, her higher self, and like asked her questions and the subconscious could tell her more things, when she came to, she's like, you know what's really weird? I'm like, what? She's like, now that I saw that past life, I understand why I have this weird like pain in my heart that like I'm yearning for a child that I've never had, because she doesn't have kids in this life, but she was just like, it's so strange, like I finally know why I had this heartache in my heart for like a child that like I've just never had. And I was just like, dang, I really helped her move through something. Like I feel good that I helped her, you know. But that was like, you know, kind of like a normal life. But it was like really important. It was like really important to her, and she moved through it. She doesn't have this pain in her under her rib anymore. She doesn't have this stabbing pain because she saw what she was holding onto and carrying over in her auric field from a past life. And so like I thought that was really cool and really important.
Yeah.
And then like weird alien lives, like I feel like maybe I'll share one weird alien life because I want to have an episode on like talking about aliens on this. So I'm trying to think which one would be, because I've had at least like 5 clients with alien lives, 5 or 6 clients with alien lives. Actually, I think more than that, but like off the top of my head, 5 or 6 clients. I feel like the one I want to share, I know this one vividly in my mind. So a good friend of ours, she's a raga singer. Her and I swapped sessions, and she knew, because this is like her higher self. So she's a multi-dimensional being, like we all are, but she's like at that recognition that she's a multi-dimensional being. So she's from another planet. So we went into her past life, and she was on another planet, and they were like these tall, like kind of like blondish, silver-haired, like tall, humanoid beings. And they lived in these like really beautiful like white buildings, and they had like gardens on their terraces, and they lived pretty like simple lives. And they would, their method of healing was through sound, singing with their voice, singing, and then like using some sort of like instrument or something. And then one day, like their planet was like being destroyed, and they were saved by other higher dimensional beings in like a UFO, like a ship, an alien ship. And so they were taken into the ship, and they were taken to planet Earth, but they were taken into another dimension inside the Earth. And so when they got to the other dimension inside the Earth, there were 2 other humanoid, higher intelligent beings living in the planet. So like her species were these tall, silver-haired beings that would sing with their voices in like a different language. And then there was this one race, and they were all men, and they were blue. Kind of like the Hindu gods, like Shiva or Krishna, blue. That's exactly what she said. They were all men, and they were all blue. And then the other race of higher intelligent beings inside the earth, they were all women, but they were kind of more like red, kind of like Native Americans in a way. And they sang and played drums, and they had a different kind of healing and would use herbs and stuff. And so there was these 3 different humanoids living inside this different dimension in the earth. And so an important day for her was watching like this interspecies marriage between a blue humanoid higher intelligent being and a silver-haired one. They got married. And that was like an important day for them. And another important day was like how the red, earthy, higher dimensional beings were like swapping with the tall, silver-haired, angelic ones. They were swapping ways and integrating ways on how to heal with the sound of their voice and instruments and stuff, and yet using herbs and things. And so that was really interesting. And then another important day, they went to Earth to like see how the humans were and how they were learning and their evolution and stuff. And she talked about, she went to a ceramic studio, and I think it was in China, and it was like, you know, probably it's hard to say exactly when, but it was like in China they have like ancestral like family like ceramic studios. It's like a very deep craft. And so she went and she was learning how to throw on the wheel, and she was talking to these humans and singing and stuff. But she was sad because she didn't feel like humanity was ready for like the kinds of healing and technologies that the higher dimensional beings like could offer with like singing and healing and being in the love vibration. Like they all returned back into like the dimension in the earth and they were sad. They didn't want to go back up there, is because like humanity wasn't like ready for them. They weren't consciously ready to like evolve and move forward as a species. There was just like a lot of like bloodshed and war and anger and fear and suppression and stuff, and it was just really sad, and it was hard for them to experience that. And I know after her session she was just like really thankful, because that was like the highest version of herself, her higher self in a higher dimension that she's experienced before, but she got to like fully integrate her back into her body. And I know like even like months after, she's like, I really feel that I am like, my higher self is integrated into my body and I'm living as her, and I really appreciate like that experience. And it was very powerful. It was very exciting to be able to see that vicariously through her too. And so that's like one example of like a alien, higher dimensional being past life experience.
Yeah. Cool.
Do you have anything else you want to share about past life regression?
Past life regression. Yeah, so QHHT, that's something we do. To contact us, there's our website, thelightwayhome.com, and you can read about that some more, reach out to us to set up a session. It's past life regression. You experience past lives, but you also talk to your higher self, and then you ask questions and also receive healing. So it's much more than just past life. It's QHHT, Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, and it's from Dolores Cannon.
Our sessions have to be in person. You can't do it over the interweb. That's just we just don't do that.
Yeah, that's something else. That's not QHHT. And we like the QHHT. It's wonderful. It changes your awareness about yourself. A lot of things about you that maybe that have come up in meditation or like other points in life through injuries or the positive things as well. That is one way to get more clarity on those items through QHHT, and it really expands your awareness and connects you more with yourself. All sorts of fun stuff. What about you? What do you think is the benefit of QHHT?
Well, I mean, it all depends on your belief system, is what you're going to get out of it. So everyone gets something out of it. It just depends on where you're at and like your expansion of consciousness, your awareness, because it could be like someone has had such a traumatic life in this current incarnation that they want to revisit this life and help move through some of the traumatic events and suppressed emotions that they've been holding in since their childhood. They could have had a traumatic experience, growing up in with parents that were abusive, that abused substances, that they had traumatic experiences. And so I've had clients that we've had to help facilitate, their current life. And so they got something out of it. They feel lighter, they feel freer, they feel happier, to move forward with their lives and enjoy the present moment. And I think that's important. And then, sometimes people will experience like one past life because, they're dipping their toe in. They're like ready to crack open a little bit more so that they can heal something they're carrying with them. And it's not too much, they can digest it and process it in a way that's going to expand them more for like a future opportunity, It depends. It's different strokes for different folks. It just depends on like what you're ready for. And then there's some people that have done a lot of soul searching, a lot of work. Maybe people have done ayahuasca trips. Maybe people have used psychedelics. Maybe people have like gone and done like workshops with people with somatic movement, and they move through a lot of their trauma, and they're just like ready to be like connecting with the galactic council and seeing like their higher dimensional version of themselves, or like seeing that they're from another planet, and it just depends on like where you're at in your journey. And it also depends on like, your belief system. If like you believe and you're ready to let go of old narratives, you're ready to let go of like an illness, a wound, a reoccurring pain that you have, injury. Like miracles can happen if you believe that miracles can happen. And then also I think it's beneficial because you can ask your higher self questions, like questions being as simple as like, what's my purpose in life, to like, who's my star tribe? Who am I related to? Like, why did I have this relationship with so-and-so in my life? Why did this happen to me? Like it's an opportunity to like expand and like ask important questions that you've always wanted to know. And if you believe that you can get answers, then it'll happen. It just depends really solely on your belief system. And so that's why and how I think it's like important. It's a great resource to have in your pocket. And again, it is more than just past lives. I had a client that like did a future life. Like that was new for me, and that was like a learning experience. And so there's endless possibilities in the quantum realm.
Yeah. Future lives, in between lives. The spirit side, that's interesting because we take people through the death scene to understand the perspective on that life after they've just passed through. And then sometimes they go and explore the spirit side as a consciousness, a spirit that is not connected to a body. What's all out there? How does that go? That's I think that's how you got the name of this, where one of those came from. You got to live that out.
Oh, the Fleshy star.
Yeah.
Well, that was that was my Celtic druid witchy life, where like when I died, I became a star.
Yeah.
And then I was sort of in the spirit realm. But we also did a short regression where we asked about the other side, because I was reading Michael Newton's Journey of the Soul, and they were talking about lives between lives, and I was like, what about this? Like, let's do this. And so we just sort of explored, and we learned like what color our soul is, and like our exploration of like emerging back into source, because we're all fragmentations of source, like experiencing itself through Logan, through Brett, to like gather information and grow and evolve and stuff. But so it was just interesting that like we got that experience, and kind of I got to ask questions about like, where am I in like the soul expansion, and when am I going to merge back with source, and like it was just really interesting. Possibilities are endless.
Sure are.
Well, thank you, darling, for sharing information with us and having this nice chat about past life regression work with QHHT. I'll probably have you as a guest again when we start talking about like twin flames and like other things. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And I hope everyone enjoys this. Confessions of a Fleshy Star, episode 2 on past life regression. And be waiting for the next one coming out.